Just what makes that little old ant think he can move that rubber tree plant? Everyone knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant unless he's a giant mutant ant. Yes, a giant mutant ant. And then he can do everything he damn well wants. Folks, KILT-MAN here. KILT-MAN at your services. How are you all? We're all doing very, very well. Now, a good while ago, a good long while ago, about 2 years ago in fact, I reported on the fact that, I'm still trying to make that song rhyme, that Michael Giacchino, the great film composer and now film director, was going to remake 1954's classic creature feature, Them! Exclamation mark. Giant irradiated ants in the New Mexico desert are causing chaos, rampage, people are disappearing all the time, and they're getting clawed to bits and eaten in the giant ant hive warren thing. And then the queen ants escape and cause bedlam at sea on great big sea containers, and then in LA in the storm drains. It's a great classic 50s sci-fi horror mashup. One of the best in the business. Directed by Gordon Douglas, 1954, starring James Arness, the great James Arness, and James Whitmore, Edmund Gwen, and Joan Weldon. It's an awesome movie. I have reviewed it. I've done a commentary track for it as well. And then I report on the fact they're going to remake this. Michael Giacchino, the composer, who has got one film to his credit already as a director, the Marvel one-shot Werewolf by Night, which came out again like 2 years ago, something like that, 2-3 years ago. And I reviewed that, and it was great. It was a great directorial debut. It showed some panache, some chutzpah, some directorial flourish. So this guy, yeah, he can direct movies, but I don't think he hasn't directed one since then. Although, just to keep on Werewolf by Night for a minute, they filmed it in black and white, artfully done, black and white, only about 52 minutes long, and only the very end with Man Thing did it seeg into colour, in a really great magical moment. Well, fans of that can look forward to the colourised version is coming out in October this year, 2026. So you can watch the whole thing with all the lashings of gore in full glorious colour. He also said, this is Giacchino, that he wants to explore those characters again in a further follow-up, but that's just him saying that. There's no hard and fast details on it at all. And hard and fast details are very few and far between, especially when it comes to his remake of Them, one of his favourite movies of all time, a childhood favourite, a film that darkened his imagination, not because of giant ants, but when he found out what the full sort of metaphor was. It was a Cold War speciality of the 50s, of course, but this is about the fear of nuclear radiation, atomic bombs, mutations taking place, and the havoc it would rake upon nature and the natural world. So he couldn't wait to get his hands on remaking it, and it all went very quiet. And then all of a sudden, Warner Brothers have reignited the ant fire, and yeah, it's definitely going ahead with Michael Giacchino doing it. And all we know now, and it's only rumour, folks, rumour, but it's one of those things that, well, it could happen. Glen Powell, one of the men of the moment, Glen Powell, fucking Hollywood pretty boy. They're looking for him to headline the movie. Glen Powell, The Running Man, Twisters, Top Gun Maverick. I'm not even sure what else he's done, to be honest. And, you know, I've got no opinion either way about him being the leading man in it, because we've got no idea what tack they intend to take with this. The original is set in the 50s, it's filmed in the 50s, it's set in the modern time of, you know, contemporary. State troopers versus giant ants, then the US Army get involved, flamethrowers, helicopters, all sorts of things, rifles and grenades, and it's fantastic. Obviously, budgetary constraints at the time, you couldn't have the multitudes of the horror horde of crawl and crush monsters. One of the taglines of the movie at the time was brilliant, where he sowed the seed of massive nature wreaks destruction on mankind. Huge, 15-foot long giant ants with great big mandibles, God, crushing people. But obviously, back in the day, you could only have a limited number of actual animatronic puppets. And I've done videos on this. Yeah, a couple which were full size, but the rest, the majority, I think 4 they had in total really, were like just the front part with the mandibles and maybe a bit of the body itself. And that was it. But the impression you got when you saw a few of them and the larvae and all that, and the eggs and the queens with the wings and all this sort of stuff, you got the impression that they'd really lavished on the effects on this movie. And it looked tremendous. I love the ants. Obviously, they can't move as fast as real ants would, but the scientists, you know, the insectologists amongst you, will know that an insect of that size, gravity is going to crush it anyway. So that's why you don't get giant spiders. The other film at the time, of course, was Tarantula. Did you hear that? Must be the wind. Gets pretty freakish in these parts. It ain't the wind, it's giant ants, I tells you. Giant ants are out there. And that is the, that effect they got for the movie is from tree frogs. And they just overlaid various recordings of tree frogs to get the sound of the ants' stridulation. A lot of insects do this. They rub body parts together to create noises to attract a mate, to warn colleagues, or to just summon help. And ants especially do that. And that noise, the stridulation, is caused by them rubbing a hard ridge on the underside of their body against another part of their abdomen. That's how they do it. So they must crunch up the body and rub it together, and you get that noise. Something like that anyway. So yeah, the effects of the time were outstanding. And it was quite a horrible movie. A lot of death and carnage ensues. So where would they go with a remake? You know my opinions on remakes. I'm generally opposed to them, but I think I've said in the past about this. They could really go to town on it. You know, set it in the modern world, literally having thousands, millions of ants scurrying across cities, forming like towers as they do, like termites, taking aircraft out the sky. You know, really, and the Queen's flying with their drones as well. So you've got airborne battles, something that film could not show, the original movie. And it'd be really, really horrible and fantastic. Obviously, it would have to be CG. There's no two ways about that. You've got to keep within a budget. They're not going to lavish tons and tons of money on great big practical ants, are they? You might have a few for close-ups, and I would presume that that's what they would do. But for multitudes of them, it'd be CG. But it's something that you kind of want to see. You know, cities being laid waste by an army of killer mutant giant ants. You don't get that every day now, do you? And I hope that they play it serious. With Giacchino and Werewolf by Night, it certainly wasn't serious, but it was nasty. You know, there were heads ripped off and body parts strewn everywhere. There was gore aplenty. But the tone was not serious. Now, the original movie is deadly serious. It is. There's a few little, laughs of the era, a few little comments here and there, and it's one of them cozy creature features. But the overall tone is very dark, very bleak. The opening, a child is wandering in the desert alone. The progenitor for Newt from Aliens, of course, Carrie Henn as Newt. Aliens is very hugely based on them. And she's in a complete, a state of shock, clutching a little doll who's slightly broken, and the cops find her, and she won't speak, they're just completely blank. And they find the trailer caravan that she came from, and obviously her parents have been killed by giant ants, although they don't know that at the time. And then once the other mysterious happenings take place, the doctor, played by Edmund Glen, has a jar of formic acid, and he wafts it in front of her nose. And in a startling bit of tremendous bravura acting from this little girl, she's genius. She suddenly, and the scream when she realizes what the smell is, because ants smell of formic acid, apparently. And she screams and she runs and hides and just screams, them! And oh God, my heart has just stopped. And I've got chills up and down my spine, because it's such a groundbreaking, bravura, terrifying, galvanizing moment. And the film has lots like that. There's kids in jeopardy later on in the storm drains of LA. So they've got to go and rescue the kids because their father has tried to save them and has had his arm ripped off by giant ants. You don't see that, but you hear all about it though. So there's a massive panic stations trying to save the kids. And it's a grisly movie for its time. So I would want that to be kept on. I wouldn't like the style to be, say, like eight-legged freaks, where, okay, if you don't like spiders, and you've got these giant bastards in that, literally chasing people on dirt bikes, and the great big ones crawling up behind people, yeah, it works, but no one dies. Spoiler alert, they all get kidnapped to the caves and cocooned in webs and all that, but they save them all at the end of the day and kill all the spiders. So, everyone's okay. It's like Scooby-Doo. No threat, no jeopardy at all. Well, the giant ants, they take no prisoners. So, actually, word to the wise, ants do take prisoners of enemy ant colonies or enemy insects, and they take them in and make them work for the ants. So they do take prisoners. You could have a scene like that. How ghastly would that be? A bunch of humans who are ripped up and that, and corralled in the ant nest, and then used to do stuff. Wow, there's a lot of scope for making a much bigger film with a lot more detail about genuine ant activity and how humankind can fight against this and how they could lose against it as well, because Mother Nature, if it's got it in for you, you can't fight back. Not against nature, you can't. But so I hope it's not jokey. I hope it's serious. I hope you get the large-scale action, which the original movie really couldn't do. But it certainly implied it. And we have some good practical effects for up-close stuff. Good CG for the mass attack scenes. And keep that sense of mystery. You could argue that, well, come on, Kilty. In the original movie, when we first saw it, no one knew it was going to be giant ants. It's all like, if there is a whole mystery and police procedural takes place, and then gradually more evidence is revealed. They find there's like hoof, or whatever the footprints of the ants are. What can make a print like that? Mountain lions don't come down this far. No mountain lion ever left a print like that. And they take casts of it all, and it's just like an ant footprint, just on a large scale. So all the evidence begins to back up, and we know, we kind of get a sneaking suspicion of what's happening, but it's genius the way it's built up. So a remake, well, we already know what they're going to be, but I don't mind, little incidents in a rural enclave, some sleepy little town, and the ants, the first mutated ants, are there. We'll talk about reasons why they've come into being, because it won't be the same thing, I'm sure. But then people go missing, and suddenly police come in, state troopers, the army get called in, all this, and the situation builds and builds and builds, and then you get the big reveal of these bastards. I would like the film to keep that sense of build-up and mystery. Look, we know Jaws is about a bloody big shark. The poster itself gives that away. So you go into it, it's not that you didn't know it was about a giant shark, but Spielberg kept the shark out of the shot for most of the movie. And then once you see it, and it's Bruce is there all the time. Hello, here I am again. I'm still hungry. So once the ants have been seen, yeah, you can show, but there's no limit to how you can make them suspenseful. You're caught in a mine shaft. The ants are there. They're taking a helicopter out the sky. You've gone into the ants' nest to try and flambe all the eggs and all that, but they come crashing through the walls, which they do in the original movie, and it's a great suspenseful scene as well. There's a lot you can do with this. I just hope that he takes it seriously. From what he said in the past and what he's reiterated when talking about this, it's the same old thing. It blew him away as a kid. It's one of his favourite movies of all time, and he wants to do it justice. But it's the thing about nuclear war and atomic radiation which frightened him most of all. So how would you have the ants coming back in this day and age? Or would you set it back then? Because you could do that. They could set the film back in the 1950s. I don't think they do that. Do you? Or some other timeline, who knows? But I would put money on it being modern day. But why would you suddenly have a horror horde of giant ants? Well, would it be radiation? Would it be mutation because of bomb testings in the desert or whatever, which is what the first movie is all about? Or would it be a sort of like, oh god, another coronavirus, an antivirus has struck and it's making insects bigger, Or would it be like, I don't know, genetic manipulation? Or would it be China or Russia has unleashed these things on us? Who the hell knows? Would it be like an alien, a NASA probe? Just had the Artemis 2 go around the moon and come back again. How many films have had probes coming back to Earth? NASA, man-made things, like, but have brought back a strange alien parasite. Well, you've got Alien, Nostromo for one thing. You've got the Quatermass Experiment, yeah, and you've got the Incredible Melting Man. You know, all of it posed a lot of threat for mankind. So you could have that. They could be brought about via alien intervention. But yeah, the mandibles, oh, I would want it to be gory. I'd want it to be large scale. The first half, mystery, build up, build up, build up. Lots of scenes of people like hearing this noise and like, what the hell is that? Give me that torch and better give me the shotgun. And they go outside because James Whitmore's partner, he's a sergeant in the state police, but his partner, he plays Ben something or other. And his mate, he leaves him behind at an old Gramps store, and you've got the whistling wind, and you find that half the store's been knocked down, and this wasn't pushed out, this was pushed in. Something broke in, and they keep finding sugar everywhere as well, because ants like the sweet stuff, do they not? And but there's no robbery here, and the wind's whistling, and they open up the cellar door, and there's old Gramps Johnson has been flung down there. His Winchester rifle's been snapped in half. His rib cage has been crushed, and there's blood, and he doesn't look too healthy. You know, it's some grisly imagery in the original movie. He's lying there, look, call it in. I'll go and get the meat wagon or whatever. I'll stay here. Okay, stay frosty, he says to him. A bit like in Aliens. And while our hero, who will be the hero of the movie, drives off, he leaves his mate behind, and he hears this bloody noise. This noise here. And he turns the light bulb out like that. And it's a stunning sequence. Gets his service revolver out, and he goes out through the hole in the wall where the ants have obviously come in initially. And then you hear, why did that suddenly go off? Well, when the ants go quiet and the washing machine strikes up, we're in trouble. And he goes out and you hear, ah! And the stridulation gets really energetic, and obviously his body's disappeared. But you see the ant's nest later on, and you see a skeleton, a skull gets thrown down, there's a spinal column there, and there's a state police trooper's belt and holster. So we know it's got him. I mean, well, we knew that anyway. But you got these build-up moments, these set pieces of genuine terror, and it works a treat. I'd like to see that repeated. I mean, people that you do care about, and going into, you know, don't go out there. You need horror films with those sequences. Don't do it, don't go out there. Oh no, oh. And then another one does it. Oh, when will they ever learn? But it adds suspense and excitement. And once you begin to realise what they don't know. Folks, I love talking about a film that hasn't even begun to be made yet. Because it's all pie in the sky, ants in the pants, you know. It could be anything. I hope Michael Giacchino is watching this and gets some ideas from it. Like, yeah, you're going to use CG. I don't think there's any way around that. Unless maybe you've only got like 2 or 3 ants. You can still call it them. And they're in like some underground laboratory. Oh no, don't do it this way. And it's just, oh, we can't let them get out. And the whole film is about the scientists and a few military people stuck down. They can't get out, and the ants have broke free from the enclosure or whatever. And they've got to battle the ants, like Deep Blue Sea style. But at the very end, the twist would be like, we got him. And then you hear like this sort of flapping of ant wings as a queen gets away. No! Them too! Them again! They're back! You know. Oh dear, turn it down again. Because as you can hear, there are certain sound effects. Bronislaw Kaper's score for them, it's very hard to get the full. I did have the full score, but I lost the files for it when I changed over the computer systems, so I haven't got the full score anymore, which was officially released So I've got this taken from, yeah, YouTube. So it's got sound effects, screaming, ants, stridulation, and planes roaring around. But, so yeah, Glen Powell. Would he play a state trooper? Would he play a drifter? Would he play a hobo? Would he play a pretty boy? Would he play, you know, a naval aviator from Top Gun school? Who knows? But you can guarantee he'll do some running, won't he? Yeah, a running man with big ants after him. There's so much you can do with this. What big ant, big insect film have we had lately? I bet you there is one, but I can't think of it right now. Obviously Aliens, obviously Starship Troopers, obviously Eight-Legged Freaks, Big Ass Spider or whatever the hell it's called. So these things do exist, obviously. I don't mean giant ants, but these movies do exist. But I don't recall having a giant ant movie for a long time. Empire of the Ants, of course, with Joan Collins, that happened. You had Phase 4, but they weren't giant ants. You may have noticed around, I've tried to put things in that have an anti kind of feel. So Phase 4 is there, obviously them, a skull, a ubiquitous skull. Adam Ant over there, and even Mr. Kentucky Fudge has adopted the highwayman look of Adam Ant. Aliens, yeah, and Spartacus. Comment below, let me know if you know what the connection between ants and Spartacus might be. I ain't saying. I wanted to have a poster for them. I do not have one. I wanted to have a picture of maybe Ant Middleton, Special Forces, Supremo and TV star. And not quite going to be the Mayor of London either, but I wanted that, or Ant and Dec, but I couldn't find any pictures at all of these people, so we're stuck with limited what meagre ant backdrop I could summon. That was very William Shatner speaking, wasn't it? I seem to lose my speaking powers altogether. It's very strange. So anyway, comment below, let me know what you think about this, because there's nothing else to say other than just them is brilliant, and it's a great concept that can be reworked and brought into the modern world. It is. The sequence on board a ship, you do see that. They get told, they're trying to spot any unusual activity airborne or at sea or whatever, any large sugar thefts. And you get that as well, like all over the country that they're spotting all these things. And they get a panic call, a mayday from a ship at sea, because obviously one of the ants has got into the hold and hatched their eggs and all that, and they've overrun the ship. And you cut to the ship itself, or rather the radio room, and there's all people outside the windows getting mandibled, getting smashed through windows, and the guy's like doing the Morse code, overrun by ants, and they come through and get him, but they sink that ship at sea. They destroy the whole thing and obviously drown the ants. Now that, for a 1954 sci-fi creature feature, that showed some imagination and a bit of a flair for direction and just make it more, exciting. Oh my God, they're at sea. It's a ship. Oh my God. Literally about 2 minutes of footage. But you could have that as a great big scene in a new movie, couldn't you? Of course you could. But I think the real image you're going to want from a modern remake of them, is the army of giant ants storming through LA, literally going through this, or New York, just pounding through streets, toppling buildings. It would be amazing. You got jet fucking fighters dropping bombs and doing gun runs and all that. But these things, there's just too many of them. That'd be a real, epoch-making image, the end of the world, and that's the kind of epitaph the film does give. Edmund Gwen as Dr. Medford, and Joan Weldon plays his daughter. When the FBI, James Honest plays an FBI guy, and you've got Ben, who's the state trooper, who tags along for the entire rest of the story. Definitely goes beyond the remits of his job. His duties stop at okay, my partner got killed, I found out who killed him, but where does he get seconded into the FBI and the US Army to fight giant ants wherever they may be? That's not his job, but he's bloody good at doing it though. And in fact, he gives his life to save those kids. Don't forget that. He makes the ultimate sacrifice. I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah. Oh yeah, at the end of it, Edmund Gwen, Dr. Medford, he says like, is that the end of it? The end? No. Maybe we've just seen the beginning of what may be the end for the rest of us. And the music swells up, dun 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 dun, and they're all like, oh no, there could be more ants out there. And that's the thing, isn't it? How are you ever going to eradicate ants? You can't. Insects, they outnumber us 50 gazillion trillion to 1. Doesn't matter what weapons we use, they're just going to come up somewhere else, like rats and cockroaches. Yeah. Can't defeat them. You just can't. And baboons, you can't get rid of them either. Those big colourful arsed bastards. Fucking terrify me, those things. Absolutely terrify me, baboons. Anyway, folks, I have been always shall be KILT-MAN, so please, in the meantime, in this ever, I was going to say Antifa. Oh dear. This forever ant peg in between time. Aye. Please keep it Kilty, keep it Celtic. I'm going to see you all later. So watch your picnics, folks. And just when you think you're okay, you've got your drink there. A bloody wasp gets in it. Fucking wasps. I don't mind ants at all. Ants don't frighten me in the least. And I've been on the receiving end of not one but 2 ant colonies moving through our house. Unbelievably, in suburban Liverpool, when we first moved in Kirkdale, we came home from work and thought, what's that? The carpet in the hall seemed to be moving. What the hell is that? And what it was, the ants had come up through we had a yard, a big backyard. They'd come up through that and gone in through the back wall and the back window. So we went to the back room and there was a wave of ants, a column moving down from the window onto the floor, across the floor, into the hall, along the hall, and at the front door. You know, not once but twice that happened. But the thing is, you just let them go. The entire army's on the move. The entire colony's going somewhere else. They were going to someone else's house probably. I don't know. But off they went, and like you seal up all the evidence and all that, like, and you put this. I was going to say spermicide. Then don't put that down. You fumigate. Do whatever. We got a guy in to do it anyway. He said, "No, they won't pester you again. Just don't antagonise them." And then about a month later, it happened again. The exact same thing. And it wasn't the same lot coming back and going home again. No. It was another bloody colony moved out. The exact same path. I'm like, bloody hell. Obviously, we moved out of that place. Anyway. Ants. There you go. Folks, this was ramshackle, but there you go. It's all part of the fun, is it not? See you later.